Three, two, one. Welcome to the Lightforge podcast. This is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. We have a very special guest on this week, 1 week delayed, so apologies to our guest. But he is a friend to the stream, a tippy top Mercenaries player, also a previous #1 arena leaderboard player, also played Constructed, just no life grinder, and esteemed member of Team Four Tails. Welcome to the
Oh,
podcast, Team America, or PJ. Welcome, PJ.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to be doing my first Lightforge podcast.
yeah,
Heck
we were
yeah.
we were surprised this is your first Lightforge podcast. We started this a bit late because we didn't even realize you didn't know the setup for the recording. So if you're for the listeners out there, we've known PJ for a long time, and this is we were playing Team Four Tails is our Fall Guys team, which is me and Merps, Team America, and Talon Dragon. And if you ever see us play Fall Guys, that's usually the team that we have.
Yep. Also, I like how chat picked up on this. I purposefully, as a joke, left out duels, and I was going to say it a little bit later, but yes. If you guys are like, wait, I think I heard of this guy. Isn't he the #1 and only duels player? Yes, he is. He's a person who grinded duels, much like how you're doing now with Mercenaries. With duels, PJ, you catapulted your way to the very top very early on. You held it for a long time, but unlike with Mercenaries, Duel died off pretty quickly. You stayed with it. If nothing else, you showed that you are a very loyal and devoted, very skilled player, but very stubbornly loyal and devoted player to these modes as well. But yes, if you think, wait, I've heard of PJ, and I'm pretty sure I've heard of him in a duels perspective. Yes, you did.
All right, PJ. So we're gonna start off your story, which is probably not exactly where it starts off, but we don't care about your constructed play. So we're gonna start off in arena. Um, you first got on our radar, like we first heard about you when you hit. I mean, you've been at the top of the leaderboards for a while, but then you hit #1 on the leaderboard. I forgot how many years ago it was, but Team America definitely was a arena streamer and one of the top ranked arena players at the time. So, what did you like? Like, what drew you into arena, and then why did you leave?
I mean, I've played Hearthstone almost basically since it came out. I always enjoyed Arena a lot. I always just loved that my deck was different every time, and I was playing against different decks. So I just really enjoyed that. I wanted to get into streaming, and I figured I'm not very good at like FPS games or things that require a lot of mechanical skill. So I was going to stream Hearthstone, and I couldn't imagine myself streaming Constructed for like 6 hours at a time every day. So I went with Arena, and yeah, I don't know, I just really enjoyed it and played it a ton. And then all of a sudden, there was that one meta in March of 2019 where I was
2019.
able to average 9.17 wins per run. It was actually insane because I was working full time at the time.
Which meta was March of 2019? I'm trying to mentally go back there. That was right before a
Rastakhan Rumble
rotation.
had just come out.
Rastakhan's
So
Rumble. Okay.
Rastakhan, yeah. So it was Scorcher and Warbear. My first 20 runs, I played nothing but Warlock and Mage, which were the best classes at the time.
Mhm. Nice.
Then I had a massive drought, but yeah. The class RNG definitely helped.
Nice. I see CY Kai in our chat says the last 1 month season. That's right. Like a lot of
It
changes happened
was.
to Arena right after that. Okay. Great. So not only were you a great Arena player, you've recently jumped back into the. I don't know. Have you been playing Arena this whole time while only streaming duels, like before the Mercs thing, or have you basically dropped Arena?
I mean, I went a while without playing Arena, but Duels was super stale the last 2 months. So I actually played like
Yes,
20
just
runs
the last 2
on
months.
stream. Okay, super still by my definition, not
Mhm.
not the 99% definition.
So for most of our listeners who I assume know nothing about Duels since it launched in the first month, Duels has gotten apparently so bad that it lost the person that had been streaming it and playing it a ridiculous number of hours per week for an entire year. Like, that's apparently how bad it's gotten. So you've been playing Arena a bit recently. I guess I want to talk a little bit about. I'm just using this as a segue to talk a little bit about Arena, because we are in now a new meta with this new dual class event and the new Dead Mines like cards coming in. Like, what's going on, PJ? What's going on in the Arena? Give us your take on it.
I mean, honestly, I feel like for a casual player, it's not as bad as everyone says. If you are competitive, it's pretty brutal because there are a lot of being I don't even know what the odds, but Deep Run Engineer being able to discover
Somewhere between 1/3 and 1/2 is
Yeah,
what.
depending on your class.
It is so high being able to discover the Super Twin Tyrant
Mhm.
of Sneeds. So
And once you discover it, it's 7 mana, which is even worse.
Which is
Yeah.
worse. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awful. Like it was played against me. I had a coil thing in hand, but I couldn't even play it because I was one turn behind.
So if you're listening to this and you hadn't jumped into the arena, because if you jump into the arena, you've probably seen it played against you at least, even if you didn't draft it, and you probably were like, "What the hell is this card? Why does this exist?" The Super Twin Tyrant, which is Sneeds, is a 8-mana 8/8 mech with a battle cry. Deal 2 damage 5 times, and you get to select exactly where those 5 damage goes, but only to minions, not to your opponent's minions, not to face. Still, in case you're wondering, our tier list scores would put that in S, around where Ysera is, like a little bit below Ysera, but like they're both S tier cards. And the problem isn't that there's this ridiculous legendary that is Ysera, it's that Deep Run Engineer has a very small discover pool as it normally does, and now there's no claw machine in there anymore, but you have Sneeds. And so everybody's kind of picked up on this very quickly because everybody's runs have ended because of it, and now everybody drafts Deep Run Engineer very top, as you probably should, and if you ever get that right discover, you win the game. It almost doesn't matter what position you're in.
Pretty much.
Yep.
So look, PJ, I think you make a good point. If you just like new things, and if you just want some craziness, which fits in with the dual class theme, right? There's a lot of craziness. The game wasn't meant to have dual classes, like from a design standpoint, so obviously the balance is going to be off. And if you just want that kind of craziness, you're certainly going to get it. You just want to like. I was gonna say if you just want to use your free ticket, but we don't have that this year either. I'm just so used to mentioning free tickets with this event.
You gotta play Mercs. Why are you playing Arena? Why are you playing whatever these other game modes are? All Mercs.
All Mercs. But I think you could have some fun. The problem is if you are a listener of this podcast or are generally within the community, you're probably more than just the most casual player. So I don't think you would love it. And of course, if you go to a community like Arena HS, it's all pitchforks over there. And I understand, you know, a devoted community which feels maybe a little bit ignored and slighted in recent years, if not the entire existence of the game mode, feels really bad because this is really, really bad. I was watching Dreads' stream, and he said, I mean, look, we all know the man complains a ton, but he was saying, like, seriously, he's like, I think this might be the worst meta we've ever had. And I think there's a good argument to it. You know, we've been through some pretty bad metas, even like the weird temporary metas, like if you guys remember the Cavern Dreamer meta.
Oh,
right?
God.
Look, Cavern Dreamer is my favorite card of all time.
I know, PJ, that's because you are disgusting. Okay, you are.
I mean, this is
a
a duels player. This is the mentality of a duels player. Cavern Dreamer, good. More cards like it.
But we have had very swinging metas. We have had metas that people have been deemed toxic or unenjoyable. And I think you have a good argument of saying this is the most toxic, this is the most unenjoyable meta. And it comes down to kind of personal preference, but very good argument there. So that's sort of where we are at. And I can't believe I'm saying this, PJ, but like I think you are playing the game mode that's right now. You know, like it is hot, it is new. It's just very different. I was telling people before, I was like, you know, even the people who are saying Mercenaries isn't exactly for me, which, you know, it's not my cup of tea, but I'm like, it can't be viewed as anything other than a success, you know? Like I, I think it just appeals to like a group of people who really like it, and if they like it, they really like it. And you know, you like it, ADWCTA likes it. But the thing is, if ADWCTA likes something, I'm already very skeptical of it.
I played 8 hours of Mercenaries today.
Oh my god, what?
I'm gonna stream Mercenaries after this. All
No way.
PvP. Mm-hmm. I
Oh my
woke up,
god.
played Mercenaries, went and got breakfast, came back, played Mercenaries, went and ate dinner, came back, and then now I'm doing this instead of playing Mercenaries. But right after PJ leaves, doing Mercenaries.
Okay, wait. PJ, can you just explain to me, in your opinion, what makes Mercenaries kind of like enjoyable? Like, and what hooks someone like Adulta? Because to me, I can kind of see how it appeals. It doesn't exactly appeal to me, but I think some other people might be out there and just being like, I don't get it. So
Okay,
try to
I'm gonna
make them
separate
understand.
PJ's answer from me because I'm super casual despite this 8 hour of playtime thing. I'm just ramping up to it, and PJ's like on a totally different level with this. But go
Well,
ahead,
yes,
PJ.
he's actually good
Okay.
at it.
Well, so what's one thing that actually is really great about Mercenaries is it does provide like the different level of players very different experiences that can still be enjoyable. Because like someone like ADWCTA, he's just enjoying like doing his PvE grind,
Mm-hmm.
the daily quests, doing some tasks, doing some bounties, getting that quick dopamine fix of completing something every day. Um, Whereas me, I actually don't like the PvE at all. I only like the high level PvP, which um, has a lot of decision making and complexity to it, and I just really enjoy that.
Okay.
So
So, well, in the PvP, like at the very highest level of the PvP, what are you seeing? What are the types of decisions that you're making? Because I think like I looked at the top 200, and like the bottom of the top 200 is still in the 700s rating. Sorry, the 7,000s rating, and the top is like is like around 1.1k. So there's a huge gap even within the top 200, and the meta at that very top is something that I think most players, because of their, they haven't grinded enough, or they're not good enough, or probably a mix of the both, they don't really have access to. So tell us a bit about what the top PvP is right now, and what kind of decision making is going into that.
um, what kind of decision making? So it's like you have to like you can there's a bunch of different comps that have different matchups that are either good or bad with each other. So like deciding which comp to play based on what you expect to see is one decision you're making. But then in addition to that, within each fight, you want to analyze what's on your opponent's bench, and you have to make a decision as to whether you can kill off two of your opponent's minions, or if you only want to kill off one at a time and leave certain ones alive so that they can't
Mm.
like drop Karen and Diablo at the same time or something, or you
So
don't want to let them drop Diablo right after Karen slows you.
So right
So
now, after you see the comp, after you see the first three mercenaries your opponent plays and the colors of your opponent's bench, what percent chance do you like? How secure are you in your knowledge of what the other three mercenaries are? Are you like 75% right, 95% right? Like you really have no idea what's going on except like maybe one merc? Like what's your accuracy on guessing? Like how stable is the meta basically?
So like 95% of the time, the green and the red on the bench is going to be Kieran and Diablo.
Mm-hmm.
But like I was actually going up against someone yesterday that built a comp that was just strictly counter meta,
Mm.
and he was not running Kieran or Diablo. So I had
Wait,
to like
wait. The counter to Cairn is not Cairn.
well, so he was playing. This person was playing a beast start, and he was running 2 blues and Gruul on the bench in order to counter Diablo.
Okay, let me. What was his comp? I'm writing this
Okay,
down
so
because I don't have Diablo and I don't really want to spend my coins on Diablo just yet.
yeah, so it was Rexar,
I
King
have
Crush,
Rexar.
Mukla,
I have Crush. I have Mukla.
and then the bench. It can be Gruul. You need Gruul
I have
for
Gruul.
this specific comp.
Uh-huh. This is
And
looking
then
good.
you either want Natalie Vol'jin or Anduin Velen, and it's either one of those
Okay. I
two
have Natalie
combos.
and I have Vol'jin. Great. This is my new comp. It's going to counter the very top meta, which I am not a part of.
But I mean, most good comps are going to be running Diablo, and a lot of people are starting blue. So like the Beast King Crush will basically wipe a board if you have blue heroes on it. So
Okay, so what
yeah.
kind of... So you talk about whether to kill one or two of their heroes at a time. So do you oftentimes have the ability to kill two of their mercs if you, like, wanted to? Or, because I don't know. I mean, I suck, and my comp sucks, and I'm not running meta comps, but I'm often only able to kill one at most in my first move.
Well, the first turn you can't kill two, but usually on the second move forward, like you're gonna have the option to at times.
I see. Okay. So if you kill two at the same time, they get to bring two possibly synergistic ones, full
Yeah,
health mercs off the bench at once. Whereas if you kill them one at a time, you kind of stagger them, and then you can always pick off one and maybe have them not act with speed or something.
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, that those like decisions like that are a lot of the top meta, I would say.
All right.
How much do colors come into play in the well, I guess both in terms of how you're building your team and in terms of what you're bringing off the bench. Is it strictly you bring off the bench whichever minion has the color that counters with your opponent's current comp, or is there, like, what goes on in your thought process in doing that?
Usually, you're almost always bringing Karen off the bench first, unless like maybe he has 3 blue down and you don't want it to die instantly. But um, because most basically every comp, I am not playing any of the comps that aren't running Karen Diablo
Mm-hmm.
typically. So um, unless like for some reason I can get a good Diablo move, I'm almost always bringing Karen off the bench first, unless there's just like a certain circumstance and I feel that it's better. But I would say most of the time it's just Karen. I want to get that slowdown, um, and just get going with that.
All right. So PJ, look, you're playing at the very top. I was watching your streams and I was seeing you have, especially at the beginning, like the first few days, where it was you and other grinders really just going at each other, because a lot of the other play, like the rest of the player base weren't there yet. And one of the best, kind of most memorable ones that I saw you have was you had this like back and forth with Luna, right? You guys just like faced each other for quite a few games. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that is, and I had a conversation with ADWCTA during the last podcast, and we were having this discussion on kind of like the decision making that is kind of necessary for the tippy top level PvP. Um, I remember your kind of epic back and forth with Luna, and it wasn't just one of you winning all the time. You guys kind of like switched victories here and there with small decisions. Now, I can't really go into more of it because I didn't understand any of it. It was just kind of cool to see, and you were saying these things. I was like, oh yeah, sure, uh-huh. And I don't remember all of it, but can you explain to me sort of like okay, bring me back and however much detail you want to give kind of at that very high level, because when I first saw it my question was how deep can this go, but watching you and Luna two very good players in many modes of Hearthstone, whether it's arena, duels, battlegrounds, constructed, etc. Both of you have proven that you're very good at just Hearthstone in general, and then you're switching victories back and forth by making adjustments. So like, how did that happen? Because to me and to some other people at the very beginning, I'm just like, oh, you bring in your comp, and like 90% of the work is done. It's your comp is your comp. And I saw both of you just making very subtle changes, actually changing kind of like uh just small things in battle, based on previous knowledge, and then the victory switched. So tell me like about the intricacies there.
Well, so I honestly don't even remember what comps we were running at the time at all, but I do remember like I won the first fight and I was like, okay, I got this matchup figured out. Like she can't beat me now. And then the next game, like the first two turns like went exactly the same, and I was like, okay, I just assumed that I had the matchup solved. And then she did she targeted a different minion, and I was like, wait, I keck waited, and all of a sudden I lost. But then I was just like, okay, I just need to do like X differently next time, and it'll be fine because I did everything the same as the first time, like, which was something. It was actually the issue we were both having. Is the person that lost would make an adjustment, and the person that won wouldn't, like preemptively make an adjustment, and the person making the adjustment kept winning, because like basically we were learning that like, oh, we could like target something else turn one, and that's actually better. So yeah, it was super interesting. Like eventually, a lot of the matchups will get solved, but there's also more matchups. Like there's more comps to be discovered. So
So right
Okay.
now, do you think that of the how many popular comps would you say are at the very top?
I mean, I'd say there is a decent amount of variance. Like there is like the top. There's I would say like there's like the two top comps, which is Shadow Comp and then the comp that I got number one with like one rotational slot that sometimes
Hmm.
people will do. And but like outside of that, there's like a ton of like tier two comps that
And
people
what's the
do.
comp that you ran?
So the comp that I got number one with was Tavish, Jaina Varden, um, and then Karen Diablo Rag.
Okay, so freeze comp. Okay, so between the top two comps, do you think the play, like if you are taking your old comp and you are matched up with the other comp, the shadow comp, do you think that at this point in the meta development that matchup has been solved yet or not?
It's So basically, what happens is they kill my Varden turn one, and it freezes something, and the matchup changes based on what it freezes. If it
Hmm.
freezes Natalie, I have it pretty solved, and I'm confident. I still don't actually know what's best if it freezes the other two. I'm still working on it.
Okay, so and you've played about how many games with this comp? Would you say? Would you estimate?
Oh
Like how
my
many
gosh,
PvP games?
I don't even know. Like hundreds. Like
Hundreds? Not
not.
not 1,000 yet?
I don't know. I don't think I've hit 1,000. A
Okay.
thousand is a lot.
Yes, especially because it takes 5 minutes to queue into someone.
Yeah.
Okay, so the time scale of Team America, like top PvP Mercs player, not yet solving a matchup that he sees quite frequently, I assume, because it is one of
Yeah.
the top comps in nearly 1,000 matches, a few hundred matches. It shows quite a bit of depth in this game mode in terms of the variations that can happen. So even if it does eventually get solved, there's at least this ramp up to solving the game that actually takes quite a bit of time.
I think that's a little bit surprising for someone like me. And The more I think about it, though, the more I'm like, you know what? I shouldn't exactly be surprised. And PJ, I was going to ask you because we talk about Pokemon sometimes, and I know, one of the games that you also played quite a lot of was Pokemon Unite. But I'm curious, did you actually play Pokemon competitively at all? I'm not saying like,
No,
enter into
I never
VGC or
did.
anything. You never did. Okay.
No.
Because we were making this analogy last week on how deep Pokemon was, even though some people who play, like the main games are like, what are you talking about? This is like the simplest game ever. But when you dig into competitive Pokemon, you're like, holy shit, this is like a super deep game in which people, I mean, it's the most popular franchise, right? Like, and some people play the video game, some people play it competitively, and there are still surprises to be had. So, I wanted to do a comparison there. But if you are
I
not nerdy
wanted
enough,
to, but like I didn't like. I don't. There weren't that many events near me. Like I think I remember seeing one like the entire time that I was really into it. So I don't know.
okay, all right,
But yeah,
but
like I knew every move from Gen 1, its power and accuracy. Like I had it all memorized.
okay,
I
well,
was pretty into it, but not I didn't actually compete against people.
I like how we're talking about Gen 1 because that was by far the most broken one. Like, you know what I mean. If you memorized all of that, then you know stuff like stupid Razor Leaf, like Slash and their critical hit rates. But, anyways, look, we are talking about Mercenaries. We're not talking about Pokemon. That would be for another week.
Okay.
Wait, Slash was one of the top moves in the original Pokemon?
Yes. So, I'm not going to explain this, but through the broken mechanics of the game, um, there were moves uh, like Slash and Razor Leaf, which basically almost always critted.
Oh, okay.
And critical hits in the base, or in the OG, red blue games were good, not just because they dealt double damage, but because crits back ignored stat buffs.
Debuffs. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Hmm, okay.
ignored stat changes. So if they were doing shenanigans or whatnot, it
Mhm.
didn't
It
matter.
would mess them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So moves that always crit, and also crits were tied with speed, but once again, we don't have to talk about that. Don't goad me into talking
Okay,
more about
okay.
it.
No Pokemon. Back to Mercs. Refocus on Mercs. All right. We talked a lot about top level Mercs, and I think a lot of people are trying to play at the top level or imitating the top level, even though they're much lower on the ratings. I haven't really explored PvP much now. In fact, when I'm trying to play PvP, I try my best to face up against a bot, and I try to manipulate my team so that I do not face against a human player, because I don't think I'm ready to face a human player. They've been terrible experiences where either I steamroll them or they steamroll me, and we're just not at that level, right? So as I'm and I think there's a lot of people who are listening who are, maybe not exactly where I am, but they're in the same position where they don't really have all the mercs or their mercs aren't fully leveled up. They're not able to run exact meta comps, but they get close enough there. Like maybe they'll use a Varden instead of a Diablo or a Karen or something. But they kind of get the same gist of things. And people around this is I will call it around the 6K rating, because I think you can use bots to get over 6K, not in a very difficult way. Like if you just keep not running level 30s and you're going to keep being matched up against bots and you can beat them very easily, you'll get to 6K. So around the 6K meta, and it's actually quite close, because by 8K you're already in the top 150. So between 6K and 8K lies facing bots and top 150 in North America. So in this zone, I feel like is where most players are. Like, what would your advice be to either improving your actual gameplay or being able to let's split it up first. Let's talk first about gameplay. What would you do to improve your gameplay and or comp, and then we can talk about grinding afterwards and see if you have any tips.
Um. So improving the comp first, you said, or you said
Okay,
gameplay
whichever
first?
one you want
Gameplay
to.
first.
Yeah,
Gameplay.
I
Okay.
want to
Yeah,
do the
I'm
gameplay
sorry.
first, but you could talk
Yeah,
about
gameplay.
the
Okay.
grind if you want first.
Gameplay. If you have Karen and Diablo,
Mm-hmm.
most games come down to who gets their Karen and Diablo off better, and setting up for the end game there. So, um, Like you generally want to have a situation where your Karen is either going where you're dropping them both at the same time, and your Karen will endurance art right away, so that your Diablo gets a good fire stomp off. Or what you want to do is you want to Earth Stomp and have one of your minions die that turn, so that you can then bring in Diablo while the other team is all slowed down. So setting that up in the end of the game is one of the most important things to be getting better at. So it was actually really funny because how there was this issue where people were leaving games too early before, and you wouldn't get rewards unless 3 mercenaries were dead. And people were saying that this was a huge issue, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Nobody ever leaves any of my games until like 4 mercenaries are dead at least. But like,
and that's
that was
because
because at the top, people understand that the matchups come down to Karen Diablo. It's not about losing Mercs in the beginning.
So with Karen and Diablo, the catch-up mechanic is so good that the games are really just not decided until the person sets up the Karen and Diablo.
Yeah.
And that can swing a game back like even like 2 mercs.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean that's a good comeback feature. It's kind of bad that it's only in 2 or
Yeah.
mercs, but at least it's a good comeback mechanism to have in the game, and they can maybe expand on that. So if I am facing Cairn, does that mean that if Cairn Earth Stomps, or I guess Cairn just comes in and I know he's gonna Earth Stomp because that's what Cairns do. Do I purposefully not kill something so that they don't get Diablo in the next turn?
So you would want to try to set up so that like you would make everything weaker so that you can like full wipe the next turn.
I see. Okay.
Potentially, it would be like the ideal move, or
Okay, so the ideal move is that after you pick off one of their mercs, you are no longer worried about killing more mercs. You are worried about setting up everything so that you can kill everything in one go, and then they only have 2 mercs come in, and then you're in this like ridiculous.
Ideally, yes, but there are also comps where like if they have an Anduin, it's like you need to kill that.
Yes, yes, I have died many times to Anduin.
So, but yeah, typically I would say that is a win condition, essentially what you described.
Okay. That's some good. Any other tips for this mid range kind of play that's kind of on the basic side, but it's just such a different game mode from anything in Hearthstone that I feel like all the advice would be brand new, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's anything. You just have to pay attention to speed. Like the rest of the advice, I would say is more comp based than gameplay based.
Okay. All right. So moving back into the setup side then for players building their collection. What do you think is the most efficient way to like get a comp up to the levels that it would be competitive in PvP?
I mean, well, so you're just gonna focus on the common heroes if you want to get a comp up and going, because you can make a pretty good comp with. You only need like 1 or 2 rare or epic heroes. So like your Zarella Samaru Varden is just like it's a really good start, and I actually still run that sometimes. It was like my backup comp for a long time. If I was queuing into the same person that was countering my Tavish start. So yeah, Zarella Samaru Varden is really strong. And then on the bench, like you want Diablo Cairn something, but if you can't get that, there are other good minions you can run. There's like Gruul is just like anti Diablo. It's not great, but it's not like you have to be skilled to play around it typically. So at the lower levels, it's going to be better. Also, like Kurtrus is pretty anti Diablo. Kurtrus, if it's Kurtrus against Cairn and Diablo, the Kurtrus wins in a 2 versus 1, because he can make himself immune every other turn.
Wow.
So yeah. What
Oh,
else? But yeah, and like when it comes to farming, when you're farming tasks, I just do normal Bane Hollow, which is the second world, the last map in it. Um, and so there's two different comps you can go to do quick PvE. The one I use is Ragnaros Geddon is
mm-hmm.
really good. If you don't have, I mean, there's also I don't actually know of a cheap. I mean, you can use Zarella Samaru a lot of the levels as well.
Yeah, it's just a
Until you
couple of
get
extra clicks.
yeah. But yeah, like I think Ragnaros Baron is the best. Some people also use Velen and Anduin, but that usually takes an extra turn. Um, like if
And
you want to be able to clear,
you're farming 2/2, like Felwood 2, normal, just
no,
for the tasks.
I do or Felwood 6,
Sorry,
2
Felwood
6.
6.
Sorry,
Okay, 2/6.
yeah,
Yes, okay. Yeah, that's what I've been doing most of the day with with Baron and Rag. But I had also, like, at the start of today, my Baron and Rag weren't even level 30, so I was just trying to test out some of the farming strats. That one does seem overly effective. Like,
yeah,
that one
it's
feels
really
like
good.
Baron's gonna get nerfed. Regardless of PvP or not, that's way more AoE damage than you can get anywhere else.
Yeah, they seem. Yeah, I don't know. We'll get into it eventually. I don't know. I don't think they'll ever nerf anything for PvE almost. Like
Really? Okay, let's get into that right now because okay, so like Mercs is going to develop. Blizzard hasn't really done much right now. They've announced that they're going to fix the Cairn the Cairn equipment so that when Cairn revives, he doesn't complete his action, which is more of a bug fix than a nerf, even though it does nerf the character. So you think that they're not going to nerf things going forward, or that they're just not going to nerf stuff for PvE, and that there will be separate PvP and PvE abilities?
well, no, I if they nerf an ability, I think it would be because it's problematic in PvE or in PvP.
Oh, I see.
I
Okay, then
don't think that they will nerf something because it's problematic in PvE. I don't think that they would consider that an issue necessarily.
okay,
Um,
I see. Okay, yeah. So that they're going to do balance changes off PvP rather than PvE. I mean that makes sense. For PvE, it's kind of like everyone's going to find the most efficient way to farm anyway. So for PvP, what do you think about what do you think the future holds? Like, do you think Blizzard's going to nerf things? What things are targeted for nerfs? Do you think they're going to focus on buffing other things rather than nerfing down something? Like, what's the solution to the Karen Diablo problem?
I honestly I don't know what they're gonna do. Because from the sounds of it, they really don't want to nerf things. But like, so it's like Samaru. I would say that he's very very strong. Um, he's not broken, but the issue with Samaru is that winning a 50-50 in a Samaru mirror is so massive at times. And then it also goes like a lot of matchups sometimes come down to like a 50-50 between two Karens that whoever gets their endurance are off first. The Diablo does like 3 extra fire stomps, which
Hmm.
it's very frustrating, and I don't know what they can do when it comes to balance in that sense. But I would say like if a character gets nerfed, I would say it's Karen. I don't know how much the Resurrect. The Resurrect might actually be enough for Karen, but the Resurrect change. But Samaru, it's just like being able to kill someone before they act, which Samaru can do if you start a blue.
Hmm.
Um, it's just so bad because typically the character will also have 4 speed, so it's like whoever acts first. Like if the character can act first, they won't die a lot of the time. So it feels so bad, which I think that's the biggest balance problem right now is Samaru.
It's Samaru rather than Karen necessarily.
Well, it's because of how it decides the game
Hmm.
with the 50-50 split on turn 1. Like there are matchups that literally get decided turn 1 because of how Samaru works. which I think is very bad.
Yeah, so
Like
you mentioned
a
that.
50-50 late in the game, it's annoying, but it's not as bad, I feel.
Okay. And is there any way that you can that like you think of or that you would recommend that Blizzard get away from the 50-50 problem, or do you think that this is just going to be a part of Merc's PvP?
The only thing I could see is that you have more than like 10 speeds or something, and like you would go to like 100 speed or something, so that things are more varied. But I don't know. I
Yeah.
honestly don't know.
I mean, even
It's
then,
just like
Karen v Karen is still Karen v Karen, right?
yeah. So, um, but it's like just at the moment there's a lot of ties,
Mm-hmm.
and also just the balancing of that would be more difficult as well. So I don't know how you fix it, but um, it's just like some of the characters being able to dish out so much damage so quickly, like Samaru being able to attack twice and the crits doing double damage. Um, like some people say that crits shouldn't do double damage, and maybe that would help the issue
Mm-hmm.
of it, of being able to do like 60 damage turn one with your minion. It's a lot. So
Yeah.
I just think that's like the kinds of things that they need to be looking at when it comes to the future balance.
Okay, so what do you think is not necessarily going to happen, but what would you want to see happen? Let's say it is now 2022. We're in November 2022. Mercs has been around for a year. Blizzard's clearly put a lot of effort into this game mode, and presumably they're going to keep it up. It's gotten already more success than duels. Not the level of success Battlegrounds had, but I think it hit that nice middle point between the runaway success that is Battlegrounds and the oh no, what have we gotten ourselves into that is duels. What would you hope for the game mode to be a year from now? I guess mostly from a PvP side, but we could talk about PvE as well.
Well, so what I hope is that, like, throughout the year, we have a meta that is changing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of new characters would be nice. One thing when it comes to new characters is some sort of mechanic where we can play the character the day it comes out or something, or like the next day, instead of having to put like 15 hours into this character.
But wait, but there is. It's called putting money into the character.
You still have to. Okay, it's so inefficient to buy packs for new characters.
No, but you can, wait, you can't buy Edwin? You can buy Edwin.
Well, you can buy Edwin. No, I'm saying you can get the character, but you can't play with the character at the top of the meta.
I see, because you don't have enough coins.
Is maxed out. Yeah.
Okay.
You can't get coins fast enough.
Okay.
So like some mechanic where I can like inefficiently take all of my extra coins from my other characters, like even if it's at 10-1, I would love to turn my 4,000 Brucon coins into 400 cookie coins or something.
What's the normal crafting in Dust for the normal game from a normal card to a legendary? That's 16, right? Hold on. 2, 4. No, that's 8. It's an 8-to-1 ratio, I think.
Okay. I'll trust you.
Or rather, it's an 8-to-1 ratio to craft. And when you dust, you get, I don't know what you get. You obviously don't get 1-to-1 for dusting. So I think it may be a 1-to-16 ratio from dusting normal cards to getting a legendary.
Okay. I mean, I don't care. I just want something to help me do this slightly faster. Because it's really slow at the moment, I feel. I don't know, it's just like it's 15 hours of work to play a new character, and
yep.
It's like, how am I supposed to get hyped about something day one when it's like, okay guys, I got it. We'll get to see, like, and then it's like I have to stream content that day, and then it's like in my off time, it's like, okay, time to farm this character.
But is farming characters not exciting enough to stream? It's the core gameplay loop of the PvE game.
I do some, but yeah, it's just the same thing over and over again. Oh. It's like Diablo 2, just the same thing over and over again.
It is nothing like Diablo 2.
Yeah, the rewards are so much better than Diablo 2.
No, the rewards are a lot more consistent.
That's the worst thing about it. they're so consistent compared to Diablo 2. Like, why would I ever want that consistency, right? If they randomized it a lot more, maybe I would consider it. That's the thing. That's really
Gotcha.
the
So
problem
it's
here.
like you get nothing for like 200 runs, but then all of a sudden you get like
2,000 runs. Hello. More like 2,000, and then we
Okay.
can talk. But you are on the right track, PJ.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you get a randomized stat boost.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Although,
you
look,
can only get 10 max stat boosts, and if you don't get the ones that you want, you would have to hit the reset button and start over.
yeah. All right. So PJ, one thing that was interesting, that you guys talked about was, would you like to potentially see more customization? So, look, I don't want to make this all about Pokemon, but I'm going to make this another thing about Pokemon. But for example, in Pokemon, which let's face it, the battle mechanics are have some similarities to Mercenaries, right? Um, we talked about these speed ties and everything. So a couple of ways that Pokemon uses to kind of break out of the speed tie scenarios is Pokemon has EVs and IVs, and essentially what you can do with effort values is you can basically tailor the Pokemon to your liking. You have a certain amount of points that you can use in order to put as much as you want into speed, or put as little as you want into speed. And then you can put as much into defense, and then you can sort of like calculate and predict the meta and put these points into wherever you want, such that, for example, it's like, oh, I don't want to lose to this like very meta move in one shot, so I will put just enough defense or special defense in order to prevent it. For speeds, I want to be able to beat this meta build, so I will put that much in. Would you want that level of customization or something like that in Mercenaries, or do you think that like the simplicity of it is something that is like very necessary and probably something that we should keep?
Um, I definitely think that EVs is too complicated, but
Yeah, I wouldn't
some
want
more
something like that.
customization I think would be cool. I think there is room for that. Like even like or like being able to have like different move sets that actually compete with each other potentially. Yeah, I think that there is room for that.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
And you can tell Blizzard's going to do something along some
Yeah,
of
I
these
think
lines
so.
because
Yeah,
it's level
like
30
it's
right
not a
now.
finished product.
Yeah, like what's WoW? WoW started at what, level 60 as their cap?
Yeah. They
Yeah.
start at 60.
Yeah, so we're half the level cap of where WoW started at, which means that Blizzard thinks that there's half the amount of complexity like content, not just adding more mercs, that's horizontal, but going vertical and adding more depth into the game. So the game is about 50% deep to what their initial build is. And they're just, I don't know how long it's going to take them to get there. But
Wait, why are we comparing this to WoW just by levels? I don't understand.
because that's how Blizzard does it.
What?
Blizzard thinks in terms of WoW because this is Hearthstone, which is a Warcraft property. And so when Blizzard designs these games, they come up with a level system, but they're thinking of 60 as the bar. That's why your heroes in Hearthstone level to 60 as well. Like in the regular like game, you keep leveling them.
In the base of Diablo 3, was it also 60?
It was. Oh my god. What?
Blizzard likes
Wait,
their 60. I don't know.
wait, wait. This is like a huge Keck wait moment. What? Wait a second. What the hell?
It's game design. They want to keep things so that you're familiar with everything, and it's a way of internally organizing their thing. So even though, they didn't announce anything, right? But you can kind of see where they're going for. Like, this is how unfinished of a product Mercs is, as far as the depth of the game, right? That's why we look at it right now and we're like, okay, there's the bones here for a potentially, like, long-term engaging PvP play. But if they don't do anything to it right now, like, I don't know. I think the PvP is going to be pretty limited pretty soon, which is, I think Blizzard believes that as well. So that's why Blizzard already has plans to expand the depth of this game. They just haven't told us yet, and we don't know when they're going to add it. But they definitely have already plans on the drawing board that have been approved, more or less. Like, I strongly believe that.
All right, this is interesting.
Yeah.
My eyes have been open. I am no longer, part of the sheeple who like have never seen this secret Illuminati strat. Okay, all right, I can see it now. I can see it.
Yeah, I am
But
curious when it's going to happen, though. Like, this could happen
Yeah.
like 2 years from now, but hopefully it happens like less than 1 year from now. The first step, at least, raising it to level 40.
yeah, this is something that we definitely tried to emphasize last week as well. Whatever issues or stuff that needs to be smoothed out with Mercs, we can just look at like a lot of these game modes and the issues that they had at the very, very beginning. Like, we can look at Battlegrounds and be like, oh, it's such a huge success right now. So many people play it. We understand that it is a deep, rich game. But when it came out, if you guys remember how slow it was just to drop cards onto the board, like it was
Mhm.
so slow, and then they sped it up. Oh,
Poison.
yes, the poison. It took forever. All the animations
Oh,
took
I forgot about
forever to do.
poison. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
all the animations actually just took forever to do. I mean, there were also just like tons and tons of issues with the balance, right? We could talk about it being an uncomplex game, and then you have Crip memeing that like it was always correct to take a tier 2 Amalgadon, no matter what turn it was. And there's a lot of truth to it. It's like you always took tier 2 like not Amalgadon, sorry, amalgams.
Mhm.
Yeah, tier 2 amalgams because they were so good, because you could always poison it, because you could always
Divine Shield him.
divine shield it. Right. So he was like, yeah, you always take it. Like no matter what turn it was. So yeah, like we're right now talking about, it's like, oh, freaking Cairn. It's like, and Samoro is a little bit too powerful. It's like, well, you also had this like tier 2 unit that literally was just overwhelming the meta. And of course, we can talk about Cobalt Guardians and everything, but amalgams were the OG, like the very first broken, didn't make sense. It made the
Mhm.
game kind of like unfun kind of thing. So if you're
But
playing Mercenaries and you're like, oh, I'm a little bit worried, BG's was right there. Okay.
this is worse,
Like,
though. In BGs, you had 7 spots on your board, of which 6 of them would be filled, and one of them is an amalgam.
yeah, at least 5 of them were like amalgams.
Okay, I was not as good as you. I could not get 5 amalgams onto my board.
They were tier 2, but
They were tier 2.
Five was not gonna happen. But you could get 3 on your board.
Yeah. You could definitely get well, you could golden like 2 of them, right? And then you can just get like 2 more, but not triple it. So you can get like 4 on your board or whatever, and then you can get like another poison
Okay,
Morlock
I
or
don't think
something.
I've ever had 3 amalgams on my board at once.
You didn't play at the very beginning.
I did not play at the
Right?
very beginning,
you-
but I
you
played
did-
before
you
there
did.
was like I played when there was amalgam still in the game.
I mean, getting a golden and just 2 amalgams was not that hard.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
would be 3.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Getting 4, like Merp's talking about getting 4 on the board. I like, to me that sounds unrealistic, but getting 3 was not unrealistic.
Okay.
At all.
Yeah, I don't even think
look,
I ever got 3.
there were some real issues with BGs at the very beginning. So
Mhm.
I would not exactly worry. And in fact, I think Mercenaries is in a pretty decent spot. Like just watching it. Look, I don't play it, but and PJ, sometimes I lurk and watch it on your stream. I don't understand shit. Okay, I don't understand any of it. But it does seem like it has a healthy kind of viewer base. Your stream has been growing, right?
Yeah.
Been happy for your success. And it seems like people are very curious, and they want to learn, and that's exactly what you want to see. And that's just like something, if we're going to contrast kind of like duels versus here, there does seem to be less frustration over this mode than there was in duels, and just more curiosity. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong about this, because you've been right, like you've been spearheading at the forefront of both of these movements. But to me, it definitely seems like there's kind of more interest in Mercenaries, and in a more like, hey, I'm enjoying this kind of thing.
So I mean, honestly, I actually think that like, I feel like a lot of the interest of Mercenaries might not even be the people that are like on Twitch, because like my stream has grown a decent amount, but like even duels, like Tyler and Zalay were both streaming it and board control. And like their viewership was fine when they were doing it. So I don't know. I think well, I'm always going to defend duels. People pooped on that mode way too much, especially at the beginning. Um, like it was never going to be a balanced mode, and if you expected balance, you were playing the wrong mode.
I
I
think
don't
that
know.
was a big thing where, like, I think it was very easy to recognize in the beginning that it was not ever going to be balanced. And then people just didn't want to play in super unbalanced mode. Like, they weren't willing to accept that, right? So people were playing duels either thinking that, well, Blizzard made this product, they've already promised to balance it, that means they're going to balance it. Or they realized that Blizzard was never going to balance it and was like, well, I'm not going to play something that's not going to be balanced. And that the group of people that like wanted to play duels and was totally okay with it never being able to be balanced was much smaller than I think what Blizzard had anticipated. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. There were so many opportunities to outplay your opponent still though. I don't know. It always frustrated me a little at how much people would complain about it cuz like it was there were a lot of opportunities and the turns were so complicated. Like I never rope and in duels I would boomer sometimes cuz like you have to play like 15 cards in a turn and it's like and the cards you're generating are changing, but like you would still have the chance to win. So I don't know. I thought it created a lot of fun moments, but I also thought Artifact was a fun game. So take my
Oh,
EJ just
oh,
loving that complexity.
yeah.
oh!
So
Any game devs out there, like you got to be real worried if PJ likes your game. Okay, that is the kiss of death right there. You let PJ test it, and you're like, "Do you like this?" And they're like all crossing their fingers, like, "Please hate it, please hate it, please hate it." Uh, no, but in all seriousness, so PJ, I think you bring up a good point about duels, as in I agree with everything that you say, as in it could have been really, really good. And I think it was. Okay, so if you just take it by itself, if it's kind of like if you look at it from the outside and you look at it, you're like, wow, great idea. As long as they, kind of upkeep it.
yeah.
Very ambitious and honestly should be lots of fun. And if you look at what made it like sort of not work, it's a lot of kind of frustrating factors from players that I want to contrast it with Mercenaries because I think that they fixed, if not at least somewhat addressed some of these issues. So one of the problems with duels was that it was such a steep learning curve, right? You had to like know all of this stuff, and if you didn't know it, you were thrown right in there, facing people who probably did know it. One of the good things about Mercenaries is, for example, if you are doing PvP, there is and I know there was MMR in there, but like one of the problems with duels is like not enough people played, so you are facing players. Like you were telling me when you were in duels, you were facing player much lower MMR than you, right?
Yeah,
Like
that the rating was a very small part of the
yeah,
matchmaking.
yeah, it was a very small part, and I think that made people feel bad about duels as well. The fact that they could be a pretty casual duel player and face someone really good, or someone who is like a slightly above average player could be facing you in duels, right? And
But
then
you were also paying like an arena run, so it's like you
yeah,
don't want it to
hmm
be strictly based on rating because then you don't get as much reward,
right. And that was one of the
which
things
is
that
also an
also
issue.
made it's like you were putting like a ticket on the line, you were putting money on the line sometimes, and you're like, oh, I gotta know this, I gotta know like what these treasures do, and then I want to be able to hit the good treasures, and then I'm facing these no lifers like stupid Team America who's gonna like crush me because like he's been playing this nonstop and he knows all of this stuff. um it just created this situation. Whereas I think for Mercenaries, one thing that they did very well was, okay, you want to have fun? Here's a lot of PVE content, right? Tons of PVE content,
And even in
um,
PvPs, you're just facing
and even in
bots.
PvP, you're
Yeah.
facing bots, right? Or you're facing people who are like, oh shucks, I'm gonna get my 2 hours of weekend Mercenaries in, and I want to face a guy at the very end. Well, you're facing another person. You're facing like that dad who's like kind of in between changing diapers. I was like, oh, let me get a Mercs kind of like PvP match in, and you're
Okay,
just
I
facing each
will
other.
say that that's not what usually happens. Like, having been matched up with people on my way from 0 to, I think I'm at like 5.2k right now. And every now and then I like fail to match up with a bot and I match up with a real human being. They all have Karen and Diablo. They're all running like, Sumero starts or like Fire comp or Beast comp. Like, they're running real comps that you see in some parts of the meta, right? They're not running necessarily the absolute top like comps, but they're not like, these are not super casual people. I always have a more casual comp than people I'm facing. Like, they're just, people don't go into PvP without somewhat meta comps. I think someone did an analysis where they dropped their MMR rating to 6k just to see what matchups they get, and then they did 40 straight matches. Every single match had Karen and Diablo at 6k. Because those are the meta. Like, they're legendaries. You have to like grind enough coins to be able to get them if you don't luck into them. But that's the meta, and when you play PvP, that's what it is. So I think Blizzard tried their best to make a nice experience, and it is a nicer experience in PvP for like casuals like me and other people. But when you're facing a real person, you can't get away from it. You can't get away from the ridiculous meta that is tryhards, pay to win, all this stuff, grinding.
But yeah, and back to our point, at least you didn't waste a ticket though.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yes, yep. Mm-hmm.
Like, if I lost like 100 rating, I'm like, whatever. I'll just grind 2 more bots and be back where I was.
Yeah. So at least you didn't lose a ticket over that, and so that's why I think I'm like, really smart. And if you are, just like the game mode, but you're kind of busy, and let's say you're doing some chores, but you still want that dopamine hit. You just do some mindless PVE sometimes, just to like further your characters and your heroes. And you feel good, right? Like, that's pretty good. You had none of that in duels. You were kind of like, all right, you were in it or you were out. Like, you were either all in or you weren't. And then if you
have none of that anywhere else in Hearthstone. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you have casual mode in Constructed, but like not in Arena, not in Battlegrounds. Like, so for the people who play Arena, Duels, Battlegrounds, and maybe even Constructed, like, this Mercs ecosystem it's very synergistic with what all the other stuff Blizzard has put out before. It's not competing with the other stuff. Unless you're a streamer and you can only stream one thing at a time, right? It's actually just working in conjunction with it. Like, I don't expect to see a ton of like, oh, I just play Mercs. They probably play another Hearthstone game mode and Mercs.
Yep. When Blizzard said that they wanted to make Hearthstone not a game, but a game hub, they're doing it now. Like, I see it. I definitely see it.
All right. So, what about duels, PJ? Team America? What about duels? What about the future of duels? I'm sure there's one person listening to us who, still has fond memory of duels and no longer plays, but may consider going back. What do you think is going to happen to duels, and what kind of future do you expect for it? Is it just like you, the most prominent duel streamer, is no longer streaming duel? What's the future for this game mode, you think? Like, what would you do to it if you were Blizzard? Like, you clearly still love it.
I'm not super optimistic about the future of duels. It needed more upkeep than it got. It needed more content updates. It needed to not have as many bugs that persisted for months at a time. Like, I don't know if you guys know what Qualdalar is, but I don't think there's a single person that works at Blizzard that could tell me how it works. Because sometimes you beat someone with Qualdalar and it goes in your deck. Sometimes they beat you and it goes in your deck. Sometimes it doesn't.
Wait, what?
What
is this treasure? What is?
Yeah, wait. Can you
just describe it?
Explain it to us. What?
So Qualdalar is this incredibly powerful sword. You had to combine 2 lesser treasures. So you had to get the hilt and the blade of Qualdalar to assemble Qualdalar, which was a 6-mana 4/4 weapon that, when you attack, does 4 damage to all enemies. incredibly powerful, like absurdly powerful. But also, it doesn't say this on a card. You would draw it at the start of every game, which I also thought they should always nerf. But so you have this card in your hand that is super powerful. And it's supposed to be that if you beat someone with it, it gets added to your deck.
Wait, what gets added to your deck?
Like, you get the treasure added to your deck if you beat someone who has this.
Oh, I see.
It was like a secret interaction with it.
Okay. So do they lose it?
They don't lose it. But
you
get it.
But that doesn't always work.
Oh my god.
As a community, we never found out what actually triggers it, and the devs don't know.
Wait. Please go into more details about this. Did you talk to them? Did you ask them?
So yeah, I asked him, and he was like, something's on the stove.
Oh.
Blizzard was not willing to commit to a public statement of that they actually knew how it works and here's how it works. Because it probably doesn't work in any consistent way. And they're not
I'm pretty convinced that there's no one that could tell me for sure how it works.
That's insane. So first of all, when you said it, I was like, oh, I know what that card is. Because I remember it was very iconic. Because the pieces by themselves kind of suck when it comes to treasures, right? So you're making a commitment to do it, and then when you're talking about I don't know whether or not it goes in your deck, I'm like, he must be talking about something else, because what I know, as in my previous knowledge, was those two pieces combined to be that awesome sword. I was like, that can't be right. I didn't know about the secret interaction where if you beat someone, it sometimes went into your deck. Just another thing about the learning curve.
Yeah.
Curve, right? I'm like, what? And this isn't written anywhere either. Oh man, that's rough.
But yeah, so, and there are other bugs that are weird. What's nice is sometimes those bugs would go into standard.
And then they would get fixed.
And then they would get, It you would see these people complaining about bugs in standard. It's yeah, I've been dealing with that for the last 2 months. And it's been super annoying. There is this treasure that when a minion loses Divine Shield, it buffs the card. And there was a card that kind of did that in standard.
Yep.
So, but what would happen is when the minion evolved or transformed or was sent into the deck or was sent into the hand, it would count as losing the shield, and it would buff the minion that's left behind or the minion in the hand now. So, yeah.
Okay, so there's a bunch of spaghetti code involved.
Yeah, there's a lot of spaghetti code in duels.
If they fixed all the spaghetti code...
They needed to give it attention, and I don't think it'll ever get that much attention because of how complicated the code is to do the treasures.
And how much is that breaking duels right now? If they fixed all the spaghetti code, do you think it'll be a game mode that'll attract people, or it'll just be better, significantly, but...
It would, they would have to, fix everything and do, a relaunch of it or something. Because, people aren't going to organically go back to it.
Right. Like an event, right? Where they, give rewards for people to try out duels.
Yeah. So...
I am curious what they're going to do with duels. Because it seems like it will take... it's duels, right? It's going to take effort to not just upkeep, but to add new content to it. And which is what they promised to do. But it has a rather low player base, and the spaghetti code I don't think they really want to handle.
Yeah, so I think it has a similar player base to Arena, but it also requires a lot more upkeep, whereas Arena has 0 upkeep. So, literally 0 upkeep.
Yep.
It is true. The problem with Arena, the Arena versus duels, is we said it from the very beginning. Duels, if they just spent some time updating it, it wouldn't be nearly enough.
Yep.
It requires a full team, kind of a deep analysis of the meta, a deep understanding of how these changes will affect everything else. there's just like so many levers that when they pull even one lever, it like can really screw up things, right? And but like, you
Yeah.
know, it makes like shock waves throughout because like there's so much overpowered stuff. Like duels by definition is just kind of OP shit versus OP shit, but you want to try to like balance out all of the OP shit to make sure the experience is still pretty enjoyable, right? It's people fairly and equally slinging out OP stuff. But that's the problem. It's
You
like,
can't
man,
do that. That's the whole developmental. Like, I think people have in the last like 2 or 3 years, and Blizzard was a little behind the ball on this. I mean, not Blizzard, just the Hearthstone team. But people, like developers, have realized this. Before that, like the 5 years before that, there was this big push from everybody. That's like, one, don't nerf, just buff. Oh my god, I freaking hated that statement. But also just that if everything's OP, nothing's OP. But that's not how games work, and it's definitely not how turn-based games work. Because turn-based games run effectively on math and logic. So when things get OP, there are consequences. Like this is not like even if you can hide it a bit in a game like Overwatch, it still has consequences that they're just kind of living with. But in a turn-based game, it changes how you want the game to be played in very fundamental ways. And Duels was kind of just leaning really hard into it, right? Like pretending it was Overwatch. So you got these overpowered stuff, and there's a lot of not like exactly solitaire, but like towards the end game, it was a lot of solitaire moments in duels because that's what happens when you have super OP stuff, and you don't want it to be completely randomly decided. You're seeing some of it happen in battlegrounds now, and like more so than before, and you see it happen in constructed. Like when you make things more OP, there are consequences, and Blizzard was willing to live with the consequences, but that's what those consequences are. I think Blizzard could have paid a lot of attention to it, but like we said in the beginning, right, it was never going to be balanced, and that was not even like a hope. They could just make it run the way it's supposed to run, but that would still be an unbalanced game.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you wanna talk about, PJ? Like we've kind of gone backwards into from Mercs back into duels, and you have a lot of arena experience. Like, where do you see all the pieces kind of like fitting in, either for you personally or Blizzard overall?
Um, I don't know, but well, you did. I remember before the show, you did want me to mention why I left Arena in the first place.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I could share that too. So, honestly, what I love about Arena was that the decks felt different every time. And one thing, in order to balance Arena, they basically like take out the class cards, which are my favorite cards to play with. Um, so
Yeah.
like my favorite metas in Arena are when like there's like only 3 classes you can play, but like you get a lot of their class cards. And it was like I was okay with that. I was okay playing only 3 classes. And I would have fun with that. So I understand my experience isn't different, but like I didn't care what the 3 classes were. I
Right,
just
right.
cared that I could play like and have fun with.
Right. So you left arenas for duels because Blizzard was balancing arena too much. And in duels,
Basically.
you found a game mode that Blizzard could not ever hope to balance. So it was a perfect fit.
Really, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like hitting Yetis into each other. I like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, maybe like Conjurer's Calling is a little bit too much, but I love doing stuff like that. I loved Blast Wave in against Violet Worm.
Oh God.
So I mean that was the meta I got #1 with Blast Wave after a Violet Worm into Leyline Manipulator. I
Mm-hmm.
mean that was my favorite.
Yeah. So you like a lot of very complicated stuff. So what do you think? Do you see Mercs going in not like in that direction, but do you think Mercs has that complexity that rivals that of let's call it the most class card and complicated saturation in arena point and or duels just kind of generally in the later parts of the run?
I don't think it quite reaches that, but I will say as the meta develops, there there is a lot of complexity to it. The concern for me is that they won't change the meta enough if they're too scared to make balance changes, and the heroes they release aren't impactful enough. Because like the heroes they released, like the 5 heroes they added won't change the meta really much at all.
Right. I thought the fish made it into the meta.
It made it, but like it's you don't even
It's like
it
the
allows for a little bit variation in some starter comps, but like it's not in the top comps.
okay. So it's being experimented with, but it's not very impactful. And even in the decks that's being experimented in with, it's like one of the least important cards in those.
Yeah, like basically you're only playing it so that your minions will survive turn 1 to Samuro. Is the only reason why Cookie's being ran. You don't run Cookie otherwise.
Okay. I thought there was like one of the things I was looking for when Blizzard launched these not the expansion, when Blizzard added the pirates so quickly into the game, is just how much of a shakeup it'll have in the top meta, right? Like that's a good bar to look at it, and I thought that was a pretty good result where you added 5 things into it, and at least so far it's made a tiny bit of impact, but it hasn't fully like just upended everything. Because if everything you release upends everything else, then what you're effectively doing is power creeping. And this was, if probably not even power creeping and just adding a little bit of diversity. But I do think it is going to be hard for Blizzard to shake up the meta without power creeping, because power creeping is the easiest way to shake up the meta. So you're either going to end up power creeping in order to shake up the meta, or you're going to end up actually doing like significant nerfs and or buffs to shake up the meta, which I think Blizzard's going to lean as little as possible on that route, because it takes so much for people to grind up these heroes and they have to buy these heroes. It just makes it they'll get a lot of very annoyed customers if they do it too frequently, too much, unless they're just going to start refunding people whenever they do one of these. Which they probably have to. Like, honestly, even if they're doing minor tweaks to stuff, if a hero stops being meta and you just grinded 15 hours of that hero and paid $10, like, you're not going to be happy. So I don't know. Maybe that's in the future. But I am curious how Blizzard's going to keep things balanced while shaking it up in a game mode that requires so much commitment of time and or money.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, like I said, like Diablo, Karen, Samuro, like those, I mean, and also just like Vol'jin. Like Vol'jin's gonna be a big part. Like you nerf the other stuff, Vol'jin will just be insane. Anduin. Like the only reason Anduin and Vol'jin aren't dominating is because Samuro exists. Like Samuro and Diablo and Karen exist. Like nothing else can kill them. The green is pretty weak, I would say, overall, other than those two. So that's part of why blue is so strong.
I do feel that, even running my orc comps, which is like half green, half red. Like the red ones aren't great, but they're better than the green ones.
Yeah.
And as I've explored more into comps that use more casters, I'm like, what? Why? Wait, there's just something fundamentally wrong with Mercs in how they do casters versus versus just like actual attacking. Like they need
it's like attacking is so weak compared to these spells. Like, why would I want to damage myself while doing damage when I can just do it for free?
And it gets taunted. Like on top of damaging yourself, it also gets taunted. I feel like the normal damage that's going from like either arrows or like spells just needs to be weaker, and they're not really weaker. Yeah. Like if they're weaker, they're like 10% weaker or something that's not meaningful enough.
I mean, half the time it's stronger.
Yes, you can make, like when you combo, you can make it stronger. I mean, you can combo the attacks to be stronger too. But yeah, there's just not. There's something fundamental in the design process where they just went with this, and they need to change it one way or the other at some point. We're also going to just keep having the same problem no matter what they do.
I agree. But like again, like with all these issues with Mercenaries, the thing I always say is like I'm still having fun playing it. And it's not a finished product.
Yep.
So
All right. So PJ, Fall Guys,
Oh, the important game.
It
the
did.
important game.
Yep.
We had a lot
Uh,
of fun, first of all, with Fall Guys. We played a lot of it. It's kind of just a shame, right? Like we were talking about this before, where we played so much at the beginning, and you look at the game now, and you're like, wow, there's so much good game variety. They do so many cool updates. All we did was grind Fall Mountain. We grinded. Like I
Hex.
remember when Jump Showdown first came out, we we're like, whoa,
I
Jump
loved it.
Showdown.
Oh,
Dude, those were so fun. Like the duels between you and me at the end of the jump showdown.
Oh
the
my god,
cracks.
the
Having to
cracks.
dodge the crack bug, which I don't know if they fixed or not.
I don't even think that ever happened to me because I was always standing in the corner.
Yeah,
My
yeah. The
corner.
corner is your spot. But I mean, I think that's a good example of one of those games that we all play a lot of games. We all kind of like Hearthstone Arena, but for some of these kind of like side games, like you like Mercenaries. It's not my cup of tea. I like Diablo 2. I understand that's not your cup of tea. But then we also have Fall Guys. And man, it is just so fun. And I've said this before, guys. If you have not played Fall Guys recently, you should check it out because it's a good time. They do tons of updates. They do wacky things with the game modes. It's a
Yeah.
game that I think I will keep playing sometimes. And PJ, I think you have fun playing it too, right? Well, it's also one in which
I have
it's
fun playing with you guys, yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah, you
It's
need a
nothing
group
I
of
would ever play
people.
solo.
Yeah, like you
Yeah.
definitely need to like when Merp says like go back into the game, he means like grab a bunch of your friends and be like, hey, Thursday night, let's play an hour of Fall Guys and check it out again.
Yeah, yeah, and especially if you have someone like Dreads who is just like shit talking the entire time, playing and in a very frustrating fashion, it amplifies the quote fun. But I think that is just a good example of just a game in which we're obviously trying, but it's not like PJ feverishly gunning for that number one uh spot in the Americas.
We did pretty
You know,
hard at the beginning. You
we
really
did.
wanted to get those 5 crowns in a row.
I
Well,
did until I recognized it was
yeah,
a sham.
yeah,
And then I had no motivation and people were like, "Well, you could still get it." I'm like, "No, no, no.
no,
Even if I got it, I'd be sharing it with
yep.
people who got it through the sham that is, I can't believe this, quitting. Like how did they not account for this? You quit when you are about to lose and you don't lose." I'm just like, "You got to be kidding me." So I lost all motivation for that. I think
Mhm.
we were all pretty motivated, and then
Yep.
at least for me,
Well, we
as
were
soon as it
pretty
went down,
motivated in
But
that
not
this is a
convinced that it would
ridiculously
ever
hard.
happen
Yeah,
again.
exactly. It was so absurd to win 5 crowns in a row. But yeah, we all wanted it, right? And we had this thing where you would like give the wins to the people who were on a streak, so that someone like you up the odds a little in it. But one thing that they did really well in Fall Guys, and you can tell the development team is on top of stuff, is that equity wins are just built into the game now. I thought that was amazing. Not because I like equity wins, but because it was a problem, and it's not like it's not like a huge problem, you know? Like it's not like everybody was out there clamoring for it. But
no, everyone
what?
was not clamoring for it. Okay.
But
Literally
while
only you.
clearly not only me, clearly also the developers, all right? Unless one of the developers is a huge fan of our stream and watch my frustrations playing with Merps. But clearly they recognize that this is how the team aspect of the game should be developed. Like this is like people in a room doing this. When you don't have the clamoring and these great design decisions get made, like you can tell that these developers like it's not a what do you call it? It's not a like a random thing that they ended up
It's
developing
like
Fall
they play the
Guys.
game
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah, and they know what fun is, and they know what like fun with friends is, and that's how the whole entire thing is kind of built. So they have that recognition within their like core development group that one of the things that they push through, and they have a huge backup of stuff they need to do in that game because it got so big so quickly. And one of the things that they managed to do is something that people were really not clamoring for, but it really eases out the experience of the game.
Yeah. And kind of tying this to what we're seeing in Hearthstone right now, it is definitely something in which I'm hoping someone within Team 5 is playing Arena right now, and it's just like, wow, this really sucks. Like this experience just really, really sucks. Because let's face it, it does. Like this is one in which it's not. Look, I will be the first person to say, do I think the arena community sometimes complains about things that I don't think need to be complained about? Yes, Death Knights being one of them.
Sometimes, all the time. They complain so much.
They do. They do.
It's nauseating.
I mean, that's kind of like.
But PJ, you actually like OP unbalanced things, so that's coming from the perspective
I'm convinced that half the arena community just wants to bump Yetis into each other until the end of time.
Those are my people, PJ. Those are my people.
No, the problem is that's what they say they want.
Yes.
That's what they say.
Yes, and then when it actually happens, they're like, "What?"
Yeah, and then they're like, "Ew, this is boring," or they're like, "Oh, this is neutral stone now, right?"
Yeah,
like it's that ugly word, neutral
I hate neutral stone.
I love neutral stone.
I know. Well, see, you're the person in which like. You're advocating for Yetis bumping into Yetis. I'm like, that's actually exactly what ADWCTA wants. The rest of the community, though, you see them and be like, oh, neutral stone, what is this? And it's like, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
But ADWCTA is actually here being like, well, yes, neutral stone.
Yeah,
hells yeah, let's go.
It's so funny how, like, we both love Arena and we both love completely different aspects of Arena.
That's what's great about it. That's why it's a pure limited game mode. There's a reason pure limited game modes exist in every single, like, card game. It's because it's easy to set up and it captures so much. And pretty much every single card game besides Hearthstone. The limited versions of it are more popular after like 2-3 years of the game and it being in existence than the constructed version. The only reason Hearthstone
be able to draft for more than 3 cards for that, I feel
maybe, but I think it's really just because for Hearthstone the developers were very clear about not giving any significant attention to Arena while continuously developing the constructed side. It really has an effect on it, but you capture a much larger percentage of the competitive player base with limited formats than constructive formats. Like constructive formats capture a wider range of casuals, I think, because it's what you would think of in a card game. But the limited format, it's just something so it's something so basic but simple. Like it's elegant. That's the word I'm looking for.
It is very elegant. Like, I think that's a good word to describe it. It is elegant. Because simple is kind of condescending.
Yeah. I mean, I view it as a positive, but yeah.
Right.
Elegant.
Right. It's very elegant. There you go. So yes. That's kind of why I want to bring up Fall Guys. I think it was interesting in that it really does seem like they kind of really responded to what the community wanted. And now, like, if you go back to Fall Guys, I'm like, oh wow, this is like a lot of what people wanted in not just like more levels, but like in the modes. And they seem to have kind of like a good connection with the community. And I'm hoping, because I did see a tweet from Cora this past week saying that they are aware how problematic Deep Run into Sneeds is, and they are. At least they're aware of it, and she communicated in a tweet that they are aware of it. And of course, look, don't go like tweeting at Cora, because she is, I'm sure, not the ultimate decision maker.
But she's also not on the team that decides this stuff.
Yes,
like,
she is not
on the creative side. This is
not. Is there a team that works on Arena?
Okay, she's not even on the team that works on balancing stuff. That's
very true.
So she's like so far from that team. But what she's saying is that just like this is a known issue, right? Yeah. And it's like
I would guess that they just get rid of Sneeds in Arena.
I think that's the only way they can do it. That makes sense, because otherwise they have to get rid of it very specifically from the pool of a Deep Run engineer, which feels like a very specific.
They're not willing to do.
Yeah, that feels like a very specific thing to do. But like at that point, they should probably also remove like Ysera from the, because Ysera's like it's the same issue. Maybe someone suggested this on Arena HS subreddit, and I was like, ooh, this is kind of a drastic decision, but I'm like actually really for it. Which is to remove all legendaries from Discover pools.
I saw that.
And because Or if they can, what you really want them to do is to weigh it by rarity, right? Not actually fully
Yeah.
get rid of it, but if that's too hard, just getting rid of legendaries, I think is a great step, and it's not perfectly elegant of a solution, but it's more elegant than something like, oh, we're going to ban cards individually, right?
Yeah.
We
I
have
think
we have different philosophies.
yeah. So
I mean,
PJ,
if you have more
tell us your
class,
thoughts on that.
well, if you have more class cards, you can deal with stuff like Ysera. The issue with Ysera is you don't have tools. I mean, well, part of Ysera is you get so much gas, but
Yeah.
if you have more class cards, you can actually deal with win more cards. Ysera might be a little bit of an
I was
issue
like,
because
Ysera's
Yeah,
not
it's just
really
a
a
win
win more
more
it
card.
provides so
card.
much value. But like in general, like the idea of getting rid of legendaries, like there's
No,
so much
just in the
fun
Discover pool.
in the Discover pool. Still, that's a lot of fun. I don't know. Like just give people access to removal and then we can play the game. I don't like you can't remove stuff because you don't have access to the removal that often, which is part of my why I have troubles playing as much arena. Like I
Yeah.
have like 40,000
You know what
arena
the best
points.
removal is? Chillwin Yeti.
Yeah.
The delayed
The,
conditional removal.
That's called skill right there.
The super delayed, super conditional removal, as in it's delayed by a turn, and it totally it's like, did they put down a taunt? Did they freeze it? Did they do all of this stuff? So yes, it is removal with a huge asterisk, which is the way you like things.
That's called interaction and ability to respond. All elements, fundamental elements of skill in a strategy game.
Yes, indeed. You have to anticipate
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like my swings.
that you do. But all right, so PJ, first of all, congrats once again on your success. But if you guys think that's like, oh, PJ, it's like, man, how is he so good at Mercenaries? I mean, he's just been doing this for like basically everything. Just go
Yeah,
look back
like
on
everything
duels.
he tries.
Yeah, he is just, I say this in the nicest way, PJ. He is just a true no life grinder, just like with a lot of the other top players. You kind of have to. Like, you got to think about this game a lot in a deep way. You got to play a lot, right? So, people like you, people like who's someone else that comes to mind? Collins, right? Collins is someone else
Collins
who,
does it.
like, he was number one mercenaries on EU, I believe. He's a beast at battlegrounds. He was a beast, and still, I'm sure, is a beast at arena as well. So I think you guys are very similar in that way. You guys are both no life grinders who think about the game a lot, are just good at games in general. So it's nice to have you guys on the podcast, kind of pick your brain, and for you especially to try to just break down this game mode that is so different from everything that we have seen.
Yeah.
It's just a completely different thing, and I think it is just very interesting for me to watch because with BGs, I inherently understood what made it successful and what it takes to kind of succeed there. And for here, I mean, also the fact that I didn't play as much as I played BGs, um, it's just kind of a different language for me. It's just kind of weird. It's almost as if like Blizzard, I mean, no, but like it's almost as if they made like a first person shooter and I'm just here like, oh, like okay, like what makes
First
this
person
succeed?
shooter, Hearthstone edition.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess Overwatch 2, right? So
Watch 3.
yeah, Overwatch 3 when you have Diablo coming in
Diablo
as
shooting Kerrigan.
yeah, Diablo shooting Kerrigan with like by that time I yeah, who knows what other characters they'll have. Like they'll
That
have
would be
Leroy charging in.
awesome, okay? Imagine playing Overwatch and there's a Diablo and you can be Kerrigan. Like, that is amazing, alright? This is like
Yeah.
some, like, Heroes of the Storm, but, like, in a game that they've already tried and tested in the
Yeah.
formula, not a new
It's
one.
basically first person Heroes of the Storm, except like not it like not that format, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, this has been pretty cool. PJ, is there anything else you want to chat about before we let you go?
I don't have anything off the top of my mind, no.
All right.
Oh, I have a
PJ?
really technical question I want to squeeze in before we end this. What do you think the ratings are going to cap out at by the end of the month? So I asked this from a purely cheapskate kind of mentality. If you guys know, like the PvP rewards for Mercenaries, it goes up to 1.2k as a rating. Once you have 1.2k for the season, which ends at the end of the month, they've already confirmed, you get like 5 packs and a bajillion coins. Like that's a good pot, and I know no one's there yet. But like, do you have a sense of how fast like ratings are inflating, and like whether like is that going to be just like the top 10 by the end of the month, or would it be like the top 1,000 or so?
No, I don't know. The inflation is not happening that quickly.
Yeah.
Like I was at 10 point like a week ago. I was at like 10.5k, and I was queuing, or 2 weeks ago, and I was queuing constantly, and like I wasn't picking other people's ratings up with me. Like the gap was still there. There is inflation, it feels, but it's not that much. Like I feel like a lot of the inflation is just coming from the people that played against bots and eventually showed up or something. It doesn't feel like there's that much inflation. I'm not convinced that many people will be able to hit 12,000.
Okay. Well, that is
So
my
I
goal
don't
for the
know.
month. So
Okay.
PJ, I'm gonna be spamming you a
That
lot
is
in
my
Discord
goal as well. So.
I'm building up my PvP team, and I don't care where I rank on the top whatever. Like I just want to get the loot.
Yeah, I have no idea where we're gonna cap out, because the rating is not inflating as fast as a game like BG's, where it's like every 2 weeks the leaderboard goes up 1,000.
Yeah, like at least. I thought that's what it was going to be like, but I've been tracking
Yeah,
it
me
too,
too.
and I'm like, it's kind of just
It's not
there.
happening. Yeah.
All right.
All right. So PJ, it's that time. Pimp out your stream, your socials. Tell us, how do we find you, when to watch you, all that good stuff.
So you would watch me basically right now on my channel, twitch.tv/Team America. I haven't been making Mercenaries content yet really on YouTube, but I'm planning to very soon once I figure out what I'm going to do with it, which is Team America HS, as well as my Twitter's Team America HS. And then from those you can find my Discord, which I post my mercenary comps. We have a duels community there if you are into that. So mercenaries or duels, join the Discord. My mods make sure people are friendly there. So
Or else.
or else I will kick them. So yeah.
All right. Well, PJ, I'm happy to have you on. We will obviously be playing a lot more Fall Guys together, but I'm happy for your success, and thank you for coming on, man.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for having me. Excited to finally be on. A lot of fun. Anytime.
All right. Well, that's it for us today. Until next week, this is ADWCTA.
This is Merp. See you guys.
Goodbye.